So I will say this, as far as like what I think uh Bitcoin and crypto is doing, it's it's started to do what I thought was possible, but I didn't think it was going to quite so soon. So I mean, could this be like, the beginning of a bull market or whatever you want to call it? I'm doing air quotes, but I think that is possible. But I think regardless, we're gonna come, and let me get my little brush. I think we are gonna come. We're coming up, and I think we're gonna hit around here, and then we're gonna have bounces in here, of course. I think those will be big ones. And then I think we'll kind of do that. And then I think we'll wick. And then that's kind of what I think is likely to happen. I expected it to kind of oops start going down a little sooner. I expected it to start going down like here, and start doing that and then come down and then go up. Obviously, those aren't exact. I'm just scribbling, but
You have said in a few previous videos that you were expecting it to do this. As you say, just slightly different, but we are still going to
mhm,
come back and have a major pullback. And
yeah. Well, I think minimally we have to pull back. Like it's always going to pull back. Like you have these unreasonable runs up, right? Like right here. But this was so long. Like this was like the COVID. What, like when COVID hit, and it may do that. I hope it does. Man, that'd be awesome. I mean, actually, I hope it pulls back first and then goes up. Um, but I don't think that's the case here. I think that it's building up to do just that. I just think so much is hinging on like the world economics, uh, the loss of faith in the U.S. dollar, BRICS, and uh, the war and the looming of World War III. I think there's a lot of things going on, and it's so much to even try to calculate. Um,
well, if you don't mind me saying, I thought
hmm,
both of you might tell me off because we focus more on TA, not fundamentals.
hmm,
But I've heard institutions have not yet started buying into crypto. And that's another reason why we're going to have a
hmm,
pullback, because they're waiting for a low
yeah,
and they don't believe the low is in yet.
and it may not be the lowest in the low may have come in, and they may have started buying like here, you know what I mean? And like what do they do? It's like they like I just said earlier, like they can't just like click buy, like, hey, let me buy like a $100 million. Not like we want to buy like a few grand or whatever, 10 grand or whatever. Like we they can't do that, so they have to be more strategic about it. So they may have started their buys here, um and they're pulling it back. I i think it's going to come back and they'll fill the rest of their orders here, or they're going to like get everybody excited and they'll come back here, they'll fill a lot of their orders, and then they have something planned um, at these levels that I've had for like quite a while. They'll bring it back here for like a sweep level. Let me get rid of this nonsense. They'll bring it back to one of these levels here as like just a sweep. Like it won't close on, you know, these high time frames, but it'll sweep real fast and then bounce, and then that'll be like the catalyst to kind of really kick things off. I think this personally, and I mean, this is just my personal opinion. I could very well be wrong. I'm an idiot, so um, take my word with a grain of salt. But I think this is kind of like just a kind of FOMO trap, um, a good opportunity to make money, but I think that opportunity in the short term has kind of come and gone. Um, and I would, you know, I am personally looking for like shorts, but I'm gonna wait for it to hit my target and look at like lower time frames and look for confirmation and get in and out, like take profits, remove risk, you know what I mean? And if it proves me wrong and it comes up and it breaks above this, and then I see it bounce off of this, then I know we're coming up here. You know what I mean? And I'll start longing. But things are so uncertain that like I'm gonna be removing risk and taking profits fairly quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not to say that I won't leave a trade open for weeks on end, but I'm just going to be, you know, very generous with taking profits and removing risk off the table as soon as possible in either direction. And I think that's what everybody should really do. That's one thing that I've learned to do that was really difficult is, you know, swinging for the fences, as I say, trying to hit a home run every time instead of like, all right, let me just make a little bit here and a little bit there. You know, uh, we all want to like be millionaires overnight, right? But that's really not how it works. Like you do things brick by brick. So I think that that's just the way I would put it.
So that's a major level to watch then, the 31,781.
Yeah, I think so. Like I think so. If I go, I think like right there, like this is, you know, whenever you see the these higher time frame, you know, bodies closed right here, like that's important. And if you look, if you go down to say, so you can just see like that's a range,
Yeah.
like right there. You know what I mean? Like that, those two, like that wick was. So let me go back, make it easy to see. Need to program an undo button on my mouse. Got 72 buttons on here. I need to program one. All right, so let me pop a box there to there, and then pull it up to there.
Brian,
And then
sorry. You know, if you
yeah.
do two screens, split screen, two screens,
Mhm.
couldn't you have one screen on the one time frame and the other screen on the other time frame?
Yeah, I've thought about doing that. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. And I definitely got the space to do that. Like Bachelor's got that freaking ridiculous screen. He's got the one that I wanted to get, but
Oh, have you Bachelor? Have you got a wide screen
it,
too? I'm way
yeah,
behind you guys.
yeah.
It's
He's
sometimes it's too wide.
there's no such thing. Like it's like you can tell I'm American. There's like no such thing as too big or too much. Like we want it all bigger, you know.
but I have 4 screens, so
Really?
Oh, listen. Oh, wow.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
mean not 4 screens,
Oh,
4 tabs.
yeah.
oh wow. I'm
Hmm.
only on 3. You can tell I'm a beginner. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got freaking the racing setup, man. I'm so envious of that. God, I'd
Oh,
love to have
nice. I'm
that.
gonna have to see that, Bachelor.
Oh man, it's awesome.
I
Freaking
just don't have the time to play it.
I know that's how I feel. Like I got all these games. I got like freaking like 10 games that I haven't played, and I
Yeah.
got a freaking $6,000 PC, freaking $3,000 in monitors and crap, and like no time to play any of them.
That's funny.
Ridiculous. But yeah, but you see what I was saying right there.
Yeah.
CT is like that, like that little split of those candles, like that's just a range. You know what I mean? And you can see like that. And I can't remember why I marked that level, but I marked that level. Okay, from that leg, and you can see. Oops. Like that essentially is the EQ of that range. I bet you it's like pretty spot on. Oh, look at that.
Mhm.
It's like almost exact. So this is, let me click it. I just want to check this. So the coordinates of that are 29,272, and that is 29,259 on a 4 hour. Like that's pretty dang close for something that happened. Oops. Almost a year before that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. How that, and that's kind of what I was saying. It's like it's cause and effect. It's human psychology, self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's also just like, I don't know, like an indescribable thing. The way Fibonacci works, is, just freaking God's creation. Just like we're all, it's just what we are. Like it just happens everywhere. Nobody can really explain it, but it's a thing that happens everywhere.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, I think I personally think that we will, we're heading that, like this is like our targets. So I would say between there, red. So between that red line and that, I really don't see us going higher than that right now before we have a really decent pullback. And I think that's being gracious. I think that it'll more than likely be between that 31,982 and 31,781. I think that's where we're going to see our pullback. Like I said, it could very well come up higher. But as of right now, that's what I think. I'm not going to be like, oh, it can go up, it can go down, which it can, but I'm just saying, like, that's where I'm putting my chips. I'll put it on the table. Like, that's what I think.
Yeah, because as a newbie, I've spoken to both of you, and you are both very patient. I think if I was left on my lonesome, I probably would have FOMO'd in by now.
I know you would have. Sorry.
And
Had
but
to
yous are
squeeze
like
that in
showing that
there.
there's going to be a pullback coming, and it's all almost certain, you know.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'm learning a lot from that, you know, the psychology and the patience that comes with TA.
I don't want you or anybody else to like, one, I don't want anybody like to like take my freaking word for anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm just expressing my thoughts, but I also, and more importantly, don't want someone to like hear that or you to hear that and be like, oh, well, I can't trade until then. That's not the case. We're looking at things at a macro perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're looking at things long term. Like, when we talk again next, like, we can like kind of, you know, get a little more you know, micro, like get zero in on things a little bit more precise, but those things change so quickly. And like I've said many times, like, you have to learn like I had to learn how to balance my expectations for the types of trades that I was taking. So like, I would see a level, for instance, and I'd be like, oh, okay, well, you know, let me just give some like reference, you know. Oh, well, there's this level here, and I'm on the 15-minute, you know, and I'm gonna get in a trade, and it's like you get blown right through. You know what I mean? And you lose sight of the big picture. And sometimes they work out, which I think is like, that's kind of the worst thing. You know what I mean? I think that it can be more damaging than anything. But like, oh, look at it. It's trying to dump right there. But like, let's look at this one. Let me erase this one. Okay. So let's say that I thought this, this red level here was a good short. And it was a good short if I'm taking a scalp, because ultimately it did produce like, you know, a 0.13%. And this is very isolated. Okay. Like, we're really zeroing in. But if you're scalping all day and you're taking 50 trades a day, like, that's what you want. You get in, you get out, boom. But if I took this trade as a short and expected it to dump long term, like, look what happens if I like stayed in too long. It's like, boom, I get, you know, swept, you know, stopped out, liquidated, whatever, and then it dumps, and then it ultimately goes in my direction, right? Like, it, you know, at least for now. So I just I show that to say, like, if you have a trade in mind, understand like what you need to expect from it and adapt. Like, you're like, what's the word I'm looking for? Expectations. Thank you. Expectations. Just have expectations that are you know, appropriately coordinated to the type of trade that you're taking. Does that make sense?
Yeah. From an investment point of view, because I know some of your subscribers, they're investors, they may not necessarily be here just to learn the TA, but we've seen like a 98% pump up, you know, from the 15,440. That's a 98% move. And that's kind of like, a lot of people want to buy Bitcoin now, you know, invest Bitcoin. So to see this TA and you know, look at the possible pullbacks, it's helpful for investors as well as learning TA, of course.
So you're saying like from here to where we're at,
Yeah.
like, this is
Of
like
that,
98%.
98%. You're thinking, this is the time to buy, because this is the beginning of the bull run. It looks
But
like this, doesn't it? Before you're looking
yeah.
at this TA that you're showing us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean that's what got me messed up, like on ETH, pull up the ETH charts. Okay, so I started like, investing, like, quote unquote, at ETH around like $900. It was like, oh, I got so lucky on this. Like, this was not on purpose. I'm gonna be 100% transparent. I actually got in on ETH like right here, you know. And then like we had this big move up, right? And I made the mistake of like having that FOMO in mind and listening to all the YouTubers and all the people are like so excited, blah blah blah. The drill. And then I held all of it, and I had a substantial amount of money for me, right? For me, and it freaking tanked. I remember like for us Americans, like 9/11, like September 11th, like we all remember where we were, I remember where I was like when this dump happened, like, and it was like, oh my God, like it hurt so bad because it was like I was up like all this money, you know what I mean? Like I was up, like it dropped like 60% from there, but I was up like 380%. And I just like, everybody's like, oh, like hodl and blah blah blah. And man, I didn't know any better, you know what I mean? So like I don't like blame myself or anybody else really, but if I would have known better, I would have seen what was coming, and I would have freaking been getting out all the way up, and then I would have been buying back in like right around in here, which is where it bounced. That's exactly what I did. Like here, I learned my lesson. I told my wife, I said, I will not make that mistake again. And it came back up, and like I sold a little bit around here. I can't remember the exact amount, but I sold a little bit, like me, maybe 10% of what I had. And then I bought some back in, like right around there. And I let it ride. And then when I seen this happening, I started selling right here. Like when this came up, like that's when I started selling. I sold like 60%. Then I sold half of what was left. And then I sold like half of what was left there. And then I held on to a little bit more. And I sold, I think, pretty much 90% of what was left at that point. You know what I mean? I learned my lesson. So it's patience is key. And I think patience and controlling your fear is it's a lot harder to manage on the way down and getting out than it is getting in, right? But it's just a battle, I guess, it's not easy. It's not something that I have mastered, and I don't think that anyone does. Anybody that says, oh, I got it mastered, I don't feel any like, who said, I don't feel any emotions when I trade. And then we see him lose a trade and he's like, I gotta step outside and take a walk, like, which is fine. Like that's fine. Like you don't have it mastered because nobody does, like you can only do what you can do. It just, I guess it comes with time, and it's really important to balance your assets, what you're comfortable to lose, like what's not gonna like kill you to lose it, but enough to sting a little bit. You know what I mean? Because if it's not enough to sting a little bit, then you're not gonna learn. It's like I was saying earlier, like if I had $1 billion and I'm making $1,000 trades, I'm just gonna be like, oh yeah, buy, sell, buy. It doesn't mean anything. But if I do too much, then it's too painful. It's a balance.